Hello, everybody. Welcome to Confidential Conversations. I am Shannon, your host. And as you see, this beautiful blonde next to me is Tori. If you don't know her, you're about to get to know her because she is pretty spectacular. I have a paper here. That's her bio. This is how incredible she is. And I'm going to read from it just to make sure I get it right. Tori is an 8-year Marine Corps veteran. So thank you for your service. And while in the Marines, she was primarily the marksmanship instructor. So that will segue to what she does now. She owns the Middle Georgia Female Firearms Training in Georgia. You can find her on Facebook. Everything I say will be below me in the show notes, so you can link up at any time. She has traveled nationwide training women with their handguns, true believer in it, and she's trained over 10,000 people in the past 5 years. I would like to set myself up with you. I'm an avid gun user. I love them. I support them. I believe in them. And I'd like to get some training from you, but we'll talk about that later. If that wasn't spectacular enough, Tori has a degree in psychology and was a child therapist before all of this took place. Now, if you didn't know Tori from all of this background with psychology, the firearms store that she owns and the training that she's done all over nationwide, she is huge on TikTok. You would know her as at Back Porch Tea. This is the Tori from Back Porch Tea. And that's how I found her. So I don't want to take up any more of her time because I thought this woman was remarkable with the stuff she talks about. We're going to get into it all. But first, Tori, please welcome to Confidential Conversations.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on here. It's been a minute since I've talked about anything that's going on. So,
well,
I know a lot of people are curious. Yeah.
Yes, and I know
not about everything else, not myself though.
No, and that's why. And I watching you talk and watch the different things you talk about. You talk about politics, corruption, different true crime that's going on. You really have your foot in everything all the time, which makes me think: when do you eat, sleep, breathe? Not to mention you're a mother, a grandmother, so you've got a lot going on. And I thought, I have to get on the phone with this amazing woman because there's got to be more to her. And then that's when I found out about your service to our country, the firearms training and everything that you did, which made you even more remarkable than just what people see on TikTok. And I really want people to get to know you better. So tell us about the firearms training. How did you start a business? How does this all come about?
Oh gosh. So it was kind of a God thing because, well, it was a God thing. When I went in the Marine Corps, I never touched a gun in my life, and I was super scared, and I almost cried the first time I pulled the trigger. And because of that, I ended up shooting expert like 5 times because I was intimidated and I wanted to learn it the right way. And so I ended up, going through the Marine Corps, ended up going to PMI school, teaching on the range. I was getting Marines weapons ready to go to combat. At the time, we didn't have scope. So I did what was called battle site zeroing their weapons, where I got their rifles ready. So when they went down range in combat, they wouldn't have to mess with them. Well, I got out after 8 years and I married Air Force. I moved around, had kids, stayed home, got my degree. And I was working as a therapist. And every night for 2 weeks back in 2016, I would just see one woman victim after the other on the news. Like a man would kill his kids, kill his wife, kill himself. And I looked it up and it's like 98% of violent crimes are committed by men. 65% are romantic partners. And I was like, what could I do to give back? Because I never thought I could use my Marine Corps background and my firearms training in the same capacity. So I went and ran this small yard sale ad on Facebook. And I'm like, I'm a Marine Corps PMI. I can teach you how to use your handgun. And it just blew up. I had so many people message me that I actually took it down. So for about the next 2 years, I kind of teach. So I would go do therapy at the school and come back and built a wooden box in the backyard, packed it full of sand, started running ads from Atlanta to Savannah. And I would do group classes every weekend. And in 2018, there was an elderly couple near us that were murdered. These 3 kids broke in and shot them in the head and stole their car. So at that point, I had a lady reach out to me. Her mother was 90 years old. She wanted me to train her because she lived next door to them and she was scared to eat or sleep. So when I spent that time with her, I started saying, I need to build my website. God keeps bringing me back around to this. And so I built a website, started advertising, and I was getting to where I was training so many people that it was pointless for me to sit in an office. When I was really burned out in therapy, I had compassion fatigue really bad, and you don't really get paid a lot in mental health. So I left my job August 2018 And I've now trained over 10,000 women, and some men. I have husbands and sons that come, and it's so rewarding because I get widows that live alone that are scared. And one lady, she couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with her gun, but after I taught her, she called me and she said, "You wouldn't believe this. I actually moved my gun from the bedroom to the living room because I got scared." So that was a huge feat for her. She didn't want to carry it around the house. She didn't want to have it where she was. And so just seeing that and seeing their confidence level go up, and people that live alone or they've had protection orders from a boyfriend, or a woman, her mother was shot by a gang member right in front of her when she was 6. She was sitting in the back seat. A gang member shot her mom in the head and killed her. When she came out, she was scared to pull the trigger, but it was so empowering once she got it. It was kind of a therapeutic in a way. So it's so much more to me than just pulling the trigger. It's about, yeah, I teach you basic fundamentals. Like, so many people will load a gun for their wife and just put it in their car or their purse, but they're really setting them up for failure, because if it jams, how do you clear it out? And that's so dangerous to load someone else's firearms. I want them to be able to load and unload and clear a jam I want it to be like second nature, because muscle memory is key. So everybody I work with
Absolutely.
generally are repeats. I tell them, we'll practice, practice, practice. So I have some people like in my 3rd year of training with me, they'll be in like their 3rd year of training, and we just keep building on those skills. And it's kind of like having a trainer at the gym. We just continue to work on it. So that's what I do. And I travel now. I started Middle Georgia Female Firearms training, but now I'm training nationwide. Like, I'm about to do my 10th class in Sarver, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh, in April. So I do travel. So I may have to come up with a different name.
Yeah, seriously. So, 2 things. First, I believe you use the initials PMI.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is?
So sometimes in the military, they'll have like on the ranges, they'll have like a range safety officer or a range coach. Well, I'm a primary marksmanship instructor, which means I went through a 102-hour course to know how to run a range. I learned the 9mm Beretta handgun, the M16A2 service rifle. We took apart machine guns and put them back together. I did ISMIT training. It's a lot more intense. You're a lot more specified. It's not just standing there making sure people are clearing their gun out or they don't swing it around with their finger on the trigger. It's more than just watching for safety. It's actually teaching marksmanship. So it's a lot more skilled.
Okay. And when you said when you were doing therapy in a school, were you at a high school, a middle school? What kind of school? College?
I worked for a small county in Georgia. And so it was pre-K to high school. And we did what's called APEX. I did APEX therapy. So you have in that program in Georgia, there's like 50,000 Medicaid clients. And a lot of times these kids' parents won't take them to their therapy appointments. They won't really manage their meds. So I went in the school to give them their therapy. It was kind of an outreach thing to make sure they get what they needed. So,
well, your heart and your soul and your confidence and like you say, God like to give back what your knowledge to me. That's one of those incredible motivating stories that I love. It's a positive message that, you have this talent, your ability, and instead of just sitting on it or, maybe going to the range by yourself, you chose to pay that forward, and it's rewarded you. So it appears anyway, very well. It's come back around. The universe has been very kind that you have been able to travel nationwide and make a difference in so many, mostly women's lives. I think that's remarkable. I do have to ask. So if you said your next stop is Pennsylvania.
Yeah, in April, I'll be teaching outside Sarver, Pennsylvania. It's at a ranch. This will be like my 10th class. I kind of stopped counting.
So do people
I do like
you?
a week.
Go ahead.
The lady that owns the ranch is kind of my booking agent. So she puts the classes out there, and then we book people, and we do like it'll be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's 3 hours per class. Normally, like I trained last November when I did it, I trained 107 people in one weekend. There's just a huge need for it because we're in a state of the world where people know. And if there's 300 million guns laying around in the country, you need to know how to use them. I mean, I made this example yesterday. I'm like, what would you do if somebody breaks in, they kill your husband, and there's a gun in front of the table, and that's all you need to save your life, but you don't know how to do anything with it. It doesn't do any good when you're like, my husband shoots guns. He has a whole safe full of guns. So therefore, what? You need to know how to use all of them, because we don't just face a local level threat. We have a national security issue right now. Our borders are being infiltrated by illegal immigrants. We have millions of undocumented people in our country, mostly men in their 20s. We have other people from other countries, I'm not going to say on here, that could potentially start a ground war with us. They've been slowly flying them in here. So you have to know. It is not, we don't want another 911 where we're off our game and nobody, no, I wasn't off my game. I was actually still in the Marine Corps on the range, but I'm saying everybody just didn't think it would happen, and it did. So you've got to be prepared. And why not? It's a skill. I had a lady, she's like, well, I don't want to be one that feels like I have to carry a gun all the time. And I said, well, a person with a peanut allergy doesn't want to carry an EpiPen, but they have it in case they need it. It's a tool in your toolbox. It's not like you're going out and buying it to take a life, but it's good. It's good to have. It's like knowing how to drive a 5-speed. What if that's your only getaway car one day? And you need to know how to drive it to get away. So to me, it's knowledge is power. And the Bible says, for lack of knowledge, my people will perish, and they will.
Oh, I could listen to you talk for hours. What made you go into the Marine Corps?
Oh, this is funny. The hot guys in the PT.
Really?
Yeah, I was going to join the Air Force, and I go and take my ASVAB. And of course, that was in the dinosaur days. So I go to like walk it in there, and this Marine in his dress blues got out of his Camaro, and I was like, where do I sign up? And I didn't even know what
following that guy.
So I thought I'm going to get in really good shape and get a hot husband. But when they handed me a gun, and then I didn't realize at that time at 19 years old, there would be like 2 wars, that I would lose some friends, that it would change the whole course of my life, because you're thinking in the moment. Your brain doesn't think that far ahead. But it did change my life, at 19, staying in for 8 years. It gave me a great foundation, paid for my college, really gave me a new appreciation for life and for freedom. And some of the things that people get wrapped around the axle about, it doesn't bother me. What bothers me is to see how things are compared to the country that I served. And so many people have fought battles and wars to make us who we are. And you've just got people are just trampling all over our Constitution. It really bothers me. I'm a very patriotic person. I have a deep love for my Marine Corps and for my country. So, yeah.
Yeah. Great deal of respect. Again, thank you for your service. My grandfather, he flew in the war. My husband, Matthew, he's Army. He also was a range officer as you are. I have an uncle that was a Marine. Deep pride in our family with the armed services. So I respect you and all of you out there who have and are serving or have family members. I have goosebumps just talking about it. It's incredible. And I am so thankful for everybody, what they've done previous, those who are in now. It's because of all of you that I have this show, that we're able to talk. There's freedoms that are built simply because of who was there before us. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Like I said, I could talk to you for hours, Tori. You have such a story. And, you were talking about, immigrants coming in and the way the country's changed. You have such a strong stance and presence in the political world and how it's being messed up, or even if someone's doing something right, and again, true crime. And this will bring me to your TikTok. How do you stay on top of all of this? Because you do cover a lot.
Well, I am able to set my schedule up where I'm not training every day. So the days that I'm not training, so I am an influencer, so I do get paid for my videos, but I love breaking things down and being very analytical. And honestly, what happened was we were asked to go to the border to do human trafficking rescue, like August of 2022.
When you were in the Marines?
No, this is as a civilian. This group reached out to us.
Okay.
And I started looking into the group, and I was like, I don't really like the way they're treating the migrants. They're more like a militia, and I didn't want to be part of that. I felt like it was like men that never could make it in the military, so they were trying to like show their muscles. But then I was like, well, we've already, planned to go down. Let's just go down and videotape and see this for ourselves. And I literally stood on the banks of the Rio Grande and saw these Cubans come down the banks of Mexico, cross over up on Eagle Pass. They're taking selfies and cheering. We watched several people almost drowned. And I'm standing there like, oh my God, like, is this really the world?
This is true.
The world we're living in? I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. And so I shared that on TikTok and it went kind of viral. And then so I started sharing all this border footage. And my neighbor had went through her ex-husband took her to court in the Murdaugh circuit, the 14th circuit, and she got royally screwed. And so much injustice that shouldn't have happened. And she came to me at the dog park where we lived, and she's like, I know you're really good at TikTok. Can you help me share my story? And then she started explaining to me how South Carolina has a judicial merit selection committee where there's no checks and balances. You have lawyers appointing judges. So a lawyer walks in the courtroom and that judge is going to do him, he's going to win his case because the judge knows he's sitting on that committee that has the vote. And it's the only state besides Virginia that has that. And so I started learning about that. And then all these other people, the way I told the story in such a condensed amount of time, they started saying, can you share our story? And so I have all these people that reach out to me. I can't share them all. It has to be a point. Someone has to make their point. A lot of people will drag out all these things. And I'm like, the stories I can do is give me bullet points, get to the point. Let me see the injustice, because I don't want it to be, I'm not going to talk about like a he said, she said type thing. So I do those. And then, like I said, if something sticks out, whatever the news is, I go through all the news. I look at several different outlets. Then I research. And then I'm like, if this really sticks out to me, this is probably what somebody else wants to hear. So I just talk about that. So that's why it's like political, whatever the fruit of the day is, the freaking flavor of the week or the day. That's what I do. Whatever you want to call it.
One thing you just said, and this is huge to me. You say you look at your news. I'm sure you have several resources. Maybe you watch some, maybe you mostly read, to each his own on what they do. But what I loved what you just said was you see something or you see an article or a story and then you research. You don't come across as someone that just repeats what is just, even if it's a reliable source. I could be wrong on this, so you could explain. Even if you're seeing a corruption, whether it be political, true crime, what have you, you see a source that you trust and you see it, you still research it, because to you, you just come across where your character and your credibility and the honesty of whatever it is you're covering is so important to you. I love that you research, because no one takes the time.
Well, news is very sensationalized. And so what they do is they put out whatever headline's going to be like, it's like clickbait. What can I do to get people worked up? What can I post that's going to get everybody going? And so you'll have like this on CNN, this on Fox, this on ABC, this on New York Post, and there'll be different details added into each story.
Or at the very end.
I take the details of what page, if they're the ones where they're on the same page. So all the details that all the outlets are reporting at the same time. Those are the details I go with, because then that's pretty much accurate. But, like I said, they put their little spin on things. And so I always try to really verify, because I don't want to get a lawsuit, for one. And here's the thing, if I'm calling out people for judicial corruption, I have to make sure that it's true, because they can't sue me for defamation if it's true.
No.
So some of the stuff, I put a lot of controversial stuff out there, and nobody's sued me so far. So what does that tell me? I haven't gotten a gag order. It tells me that they could not prove in court that I was wrong. So I want to make sure whatever I put out there that I can back it up, so that I don't, I can legally protect myself.
Yeah, you, as much as you have a massive following on TikTok, and again, all of her links will be below us in the show notes. You're straight. You are to the point. You do not just put out some kind of crazy headline. People click on you because, at least for me, I know you've done the research. I take what you say. I'll still look into things because that's just me. But I do believe when I listen to you, I look at you as a reliable source. But you don't have crazy headlines, or you just are so matter of fact and so confident in what you're saying. And it's not like you have some crazy headline on your TikTok and that's what people are. No, you just are just a video and you're like, okay, this is what's going on. And, you kind of break it down, you simplify it, you explain it. You don't just say something and go, okay, how juicy is that going to sound? You're not like that. You're very respectable.
Thank you. Well, like recently, somebody directed me to this Facebook of Jersey from the Murdaugh trial's ex-husband. Now he knows he's crazy. He told me I am crazy, but I'm
What
not
was
a
the name?
liar. Jersey from the Murdaugh
Oh, okay,
trial,
okay.
the one that said she felt like she was swayed by Becky Hill or whatever. And he's like, I know I'm crazy, but I'm not a liar. And he's a little off his rocker, but I have
Aren't we
no
all?
reason to believe anybody's lying unless you prove to me, when you prove me wrong, then that, I have no reason not to trust somebody until they give me a reason not to.
Yeah.
And so he said all this stuff that I already knew from people that live down in that area who have given me lots of tea. And so the stuff he was saying, I was like, it's not really a lie. I already know this to be fact. So I shared it and I'm like, he just threw everybody under the bus. This guy has nothing to gain. In fact, he's risking his life.
Yes, I saw that. I know what post you're
So
talking about.
I put it out there. They're like, oh, he can't even speak. I'm like, the guy's a blue collar worker. That makes the world go round. I'm sorry if he's not eloquent, but he hasn't given me a reason not to believe him. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I watched that and it blew me away. And for anybody that's not sure what Tori is talking about, Tori has done an extensive amount of posting regarding the Murdaughs, the double murder, many things. And now the latest craziness was this whole, jury tampering and everything that went with that. And, was it true? Was it wasn't true? It's so crazy.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. I'm like, is there anything else? Any other details? I mean, it's awful.
Yeah, and this is
it's a train wreck.
It's a train wreck. And I have to tell you, and I don't know if you felt this way, just to, go off track a little bit here, but when I had first heard about the jury tampering, I just went, this is a little too quick and a little too convenient. You're gonna have to prove something to me. And
well, the other side makes me go ahead. Sorry.
No, even after they, he did his documents and this judge, then to that judge, and just narrowing it all down. I still thought, don't trust this, not at all. And then flash forward to the husband, the ex-husband, that made more sense to me than the whole original jury tampering.
Yeah, there's a lot of details to what I did was when everybody was giving their daily recaps, I wasn't watching it. I waited until all of it died down. And then I went into court TV and I started watching the whole case and dissecting all the witnesses and Blanca and Nathan Tootin and all these people and giving a recap because I didn't want what I was seeing to be influenced by what people were doing, like on court TV and things like that. And so part of me feels like, and this may be, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but part of me feels like maybe they set this up for her to tamper with the jury so that he could, this was all done on purpose.
Well, I think if you want my kind of theory on Murdaugh, I believe he accepted the charges on all of those cases and pled out quickly and at the kindness of his own heart, plead guilty to not take up time in the court. He knows there's a lot of
people involved.
I think he did that by doing the right thing and pleading guilty. He also had a lot of time reduced. And I think his whole goal was to get out of jail early. First, you got to set it up, get all these cases together. Let me plead guilty. Let's settle it all, not spend a whole bunch of time in jail. So I know exactly how long I'm going to be in jail because I'm such a good guy and I pled guilty. To then get a second trial. And I think he fully thought for however he could be found not guilty, he would be found not guilty. So you get found not guilty, you already have a great reduction in time on the cases you already pled guilty to. And you kind of get yourself out of jail early. Everybody thinks Murdaugh's not smart enough to figure this whole thing out. And I think he's brilliant.
You don't have the Murdaugh dynasty for over 100 years and not be able to engineer what they have so much potential to engineer everything. And the thing was, I think he's trying to protect Buster, one. And two, I know there were a lot more people involved in his money laundering. And there are so many people. There are things I would not put on the internet that I know about from people that live there.
Oh, yeah.
And so this guy, he's not dumb. You don't have a Murdaugh dynasty like that and not know what you're doing. You know the law.
No, and he knows, he's been in that courtroom. Look how long he allegedly fooled his entire firm, his family, and anybody close to him. That's not stupid. That's
The
brilliant.
thing is, I don't think that they didn't know. I
Neither do I.
think that it came out when he started getting caught for everything after the murder. I don't think that all of them were just so innocent to knowing those facts about the finances. You can't work with that many people and nobody has a clue. There's just a lot more to it we may never know.
Yeah. Well,
But
here's the
anyway, I
thing.
love to tell people stories.
Yeah, yeah. You are so good at it. And again, you really cover, there's some stories where I see your post and I'll say, oh yeah, I remember reading about that. And she's right on that. She's right on that. And then you'll say something, in someone's small little neighborhood. You really have your foot in so many different things that I thought, when does this woman even breathe?
You know what? I have like a photographic memory. So I can read a story and I can memorize details and I can regurgitate it in like 2 minutes. So it doesn't take me long. I don't have to spend much time on a story at all. If I like it, I'll look it up, I'll read the details, I'll kind of ponder over it, and I'll do a video. It literally spend like 45 minutes on each story. That's it.
I don't know. I am so impressed by you. Again, everybody, I will put the links below. You have to just start following Tori at Back Porch Tea on TikTok. Honestly, it's like one of the most reliable news sources out right now. Just be honest with you.
Well, I think it's because I can't be bought.
Yeah, yeah, and again, just your even your whole story. I know that your TikTok is remarkable in what you cover, and it's little bits and pieces. It's the way I like it. It's fast, it's quick, and then you dive in. I know you've done tours. You went to the courthouse, and I've seen you do videos, and you work with other people on other cases. You're really, really good at what you do. And now and with all the firearms training and going back to, you're about to go out of town and you've taught all these thousands of people in the past 5 years all over the nation. Do they contact you through your Facebook page to say, hey, I want to set up lessons in my area? And then you get your agent to kind of work on that and then off you go?
Yeah, what they do is it has to be, first of all, a state that's gun friendly. That will allow me to come in. Some ranges don't want outside instructors, so I have to call and make a report with these people like, hey, are you okay with an outside instructor? And then I have to give them my insurance and things that I have to prove that I'm reputable. And then sometimes they'll go to my page and read my reviews. I have over 415 5-star reviews on my Facebook, so you can look at that. It's kind of, I don't have to advertise anymore. It's really word of mouth. So I put a class out there and then people start booking, except in Pennsylvania, she does advertise for that. But if somebody messaged me and they said, hey, I want you to come to Florida and do a class, then I would find a location. I would give them all the details on how to advertise and I would make all the plans. So really, all they have to do is nail down a date and time with me and I handle all the logistics. So I can pretty much go anywhere as long as it's not like California, New Jersey, any of the major liberal states. I'm not even thinking about it.
Okay. And again, everybody, I will link in the show notes below Tori's Facebook for training. I'm inspired by you, Tori. Again, like I said, I'm a gun owner. I do have a great respect for the gun. I have my crossbow. I love it all. It is a sport. Again, like you said, it's not about taking it because I think, my whole thing is about shooting someone. No, it's not. But I do try to be,
women. Mm-hmm.
It's preventative. It's knowledge, it's education, it's confidence. It's knowing that if something happened or my husband's traveling or he's not able to defend for whatever reason, that I'm not
tied up in your house.
I'm not. Yeah, I have another option to just not become a victim. I just don't believe women, period, should be helpless. Everybody needs to go out there learning how to fight, shoot guns, whatever you want to do. That's important. I don't care what political side you're on. Being able to protect yourself is your God-given right, and why you don't feel it's right to be able to protect yourself, to me, just sounds insane. So I'm so happy.
Problem.
Go ahead.
The biggest problem, and I'm going to say this before I forget, is like I said, sensationalism. People, the news will hype up a shooting. They'll hype up an AR-15, which is not an automatic weapon. They will go into all these things, and it puts people in hysterics. And because they don't have experience with it, they just freak out over the subject when they don't have any experience. So the main thing is, women aren't killers by nature. We are not going to pull the trigger on a human being unless we're really in fear of our life. So they're just very like overzealous and crazy and almost neurotic about the whole gun thing. And it's like, if you really understood guns or how the psychology behind it, it really is not worth freaking out about and instilling fear in people. And that's what they do. They're just like, they've made guns this scary thing, and really it's not. It's just lack of knowledge.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. As many guns that I have and as much experience as I have with them, it's not, that doesn't mean I just want to pick one up and walk around with it. There's a healthy respect to that amount of power and ability. And you've got to know what you're doing to understand that. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it and protect yourself.
You will not have an accident. Even kids in houses where there's gun owners that have been exposed are a lot safer. I took a toy Glock and I laid it down on the chair next to my 6-year-old. It was a fake one, and I just wanted to see how she would react. She wouldn't even touch it because she's been on the range. I've told her what things can do. That doesn't mean I'm going to lay my gun out right there for her to get a hold of. But kids and people who are exposed to it, you don't have those accidents.
Because they've been taught.
Don't take training. Yeah. I think that everybody in the country should have to, you have to get a license to drive. I think it should be required before you can graduate high school that you take a gun safety course.
You just never know when you're going to be presented with. You could be at a friend's house and they have guns. Yeah. I mean, you
could find one on the street that a gang member threw out. How do you clear that out?
How many accidents happen because they don't know how?
Yeah. Right. Or they think the magazine, like kids, they'll pick up their parents' gun and they'll take the magazine out of the gun and they don't realize they're still around in the chamber. So they point it around at their friends and they shoot their friends. It's just lack of education.
Yeah. Guns aren't all of what you just see in the movies. There's so much more to it.
It is. Mm-hmm. And it's reckless to load somebody else's firearm. I mean, nobody touches my gun, period. End of story.
No, because you don't know. You don't know. Did they rack it? You've got to pay it. You just have to be responsible for yourself, for your guns, for everything in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's been really good talking to you.
It's been great talking to you.
We should do this more often. I would enjoy it. We could talk about different things.
Oh, I would love to. You tell me. Like I said, the one conversation I had with you when I knew I had to get to know you better, I just thought, all right, there is so much more to this woman. She is so spectacular.
The only thing I won't talk about is my kids. I like to keep my kids and my relationship private. So
respect, not a problem. I'm a mom. I get it. I don't know about any of you, but I am having so much fun learning Tori and everything Tori that I'm going to have you back. So Tori, please, will you come back for a part 2?
Yes, I will. Absolutely. Yes. I'm excited. It's been fun talking to you. If I wasn't on a time crunch today, I could have talked. You don't want me to talk for 2 hours.
It's okay. I'm just glad you're coming back.
But there's still a lot to cover. Yeah. And I love the fact you can do the whole podcast thing, because I've been thinking about it and I don't want to do it by myself, but I'd love to be a guest.
Oh, well, you're a guest anytime. And if you think there's not going to be a part 2 thing again, absolutely everybody. Tori, we'll be back for part 2. If you've got questions, anything you want to know, shoot them our way. I'll make sure it comes on the next episode. I cannot wait to have you back to cover even more of Tori. And I am so thankful that you took the time out of your day and whatever it is that you're doing to talk with me and our guest. And I'm just really appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.